Yo, what is up? Welcome back. The power stat in Gotham Knights, I think, is very confusing to a lot of people. So today in this video, we're going to try to set the record straight. So the question came up in the stream yesterday, does power actually affect gameplay? Well, I did some extensive testing, and in today's video, I'm going to share all of my results with you. So hopefully by the end of the video, you have a better understanding of what the power stat actually means in Gotham Knights. So if you enjoy the video, be sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, consider subbing for some more Gotham Knights content. So I think the real question when it comes to power is, does power actually affect your damage and your damage output? When you go into the crafting screen, it sorts by default by power. So what is this telling you? Is that the top linked 885 is going to do more damage than the 875 toxic? Well, not necessarily. I think in order to conduct this test as accurately as possible, we have to keep all variables exactly the same, or at least as close to exactly the same as we possibly can, with the only thing changing being the power. So what I did is I set the suit and the ranged to be exactly the same and only changed the melee weapon. Now, when it comes to the suit, I made sure I picked a suit that had no conditional stats to it, so we weren't going to get any bonuses no matter what we were doing. It's the same with the ranged. I had to pick a ranged in which it had no bonuses for anything we did. Of course, we didn't add any mod slots. Now, the power and the damage and the defense and the health, none of that matters because both the suit and the ranged are going to stay exactly the same. Now, when it comes to the melee weapon, you have to pick a melee that has exactly the same damage and where the conditional stats are not going to affect the gameplay. So I picked Predator. The damage is 644, power is 850. The gear properties, knocking out an enemy with stealth attack, both of those conditional stats are not going to matter because we're not going to do any stealth attacks. And then we picked high abilities. Same thing, 644, 852. The only change in this is going to be critical chance. Now we're going to show how much damage you do with critical chance. It's just with this one, you're just going to be able to get that critical chance a little bit more, but the damage numbers are not going to change. Same thing with the conditional stats, heals wear and increases damage after using a base ability. But we're not going to use any abilities. We're just going to use simple attacks, basic attacks, and heavy melee attacks. And then we got the 860 Undying. Same exact thing, 644 damage, 860 power this time though. Critical chance is higher. The only difference with this one is this does have critical damage as an increase. So we won't be able to judge the critical damage aspect of it, but the base stats on the heavy and the basic attack, they're still going to be exactly the same. And as far as the gear properties, greatly increased defense when health is low. So we're not going to get health low, so it's not going to matter. Once we do the test on those three melee weapons with different power levels, but the same damage, we're then going to run a test on the team up bioelectric and team up concussive. Now, even though these have the same damage and the same power, I'm going to show you that you will get different damage numbers. Other thing that is important is to make sure that you are attacking the same enemies every time. So you can get consistent damage numbers with the same defense, going against the same defense. So we are on hard difficulty. We're using a criminal stronghold. We are the mob or facing the mob, and we're going to face the same enemies every single time, because remember, the enemies, depending on what level they are or what type of enemy they are, they have different defenses. So therefore, your damage output is going to be different. That's why we have to make sure that the enemies we do attack are going to be the same. All right, let's start this off by using the 850 Predator. Now remember, we're going to be attacking the same enemies. Also keep in mind that you got to watch out for their level. Level 39. This guy over here is hopefully level 39. Both of them are level 39. 630, 663, 663. And then 1312. So we have 663, 1312, 1312, 875, 994. So remember, those are going to be your base damage with crit and without crit on both the heavy and the basic attacks. So just depending on if it's crit or not crit, those are going to be our numbers that we're going to be looking for. Now we're going to do it with the high abilities 852. We're going to try to target, obviously, those same two guys because we want to get, you know, consistent results, consistent damage. We can't use an ability because that's going to increase our base damage. So we got to be sure to make sure that he notices us. Hello. Okay, here we are. Come on, we're right here. 994, that was with the crit. 663 without crit. 948. 1312, that was with the crit heavy damage. 1312 again, that's with heavy damage. We're trying to target the same guy. That's a level 41. 875. So we want to be sure that we try to target, you know, the same guys so we can get consistent results. 1312. This is a pretty high crits, but we're getting the same damage numbers. We don't want her. She has higher health or higher defense. We're trying to get a base one. Without the crit, we keep getting only crits. 1312 again. 1312 again. Obviously, this is a heavy crit build. 875, there we go. Now we're going to use the Undying one, and like I said at the start, critical damage is going to be different, so we're only going to be able to use the base stats. So the base attack without the crit, heavy attack without the crit. And I think, obviously, you know, you could scale it up, you could calculate it if you want to, but we're just going to be looking for the base. No crits or no nothing. That's a crit. That's a crit as well. There's 663. So we got the base damage. 984. That's, again, those are crits. We can't count the crits because it has a higher crit damage. 875. That was without crit on heavy attacks. 875. So for the first test, we had 3 different melees. 3 different power levels, all the same damage, and yet all the results were exactly the same for the base and the crits on Undying, high abilities, and Predator. Now for test number 2, we're going to take the Team Up Concussive, Team Up Bioelectric. They both have the same power, both have the same damage, both have the same crit chance. The only difference is that one is concussive and one is bioelectric. Now, neither one of the stats in there affect the power, the total power. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is we're changing the elemental effect. That guy's level 41. I don't know why that one changed. So let's check out the damage. We got 823, 547. 823, 547. Remember, that's on a level 39, not on a level 41. Just take a look at these numbers that we're getting. There's a crit for over 1,000. 823 again on crits, 905. Now, same exact thing, Team Up Bioelectric this time. Remember, this has the same power, same damage. 1069, 713, 1411, 941, 941. You can tell that the damage differences is obviously much bigger. When you have bioelectric, even though that the power of the weapon is not changed, the damage is not changed, we are getting different damage numbers now. So what does this mean? Well, what it means is that power is not directly affected damage. The higher power number doesn't necessarily mean you're going to output more damage. Now, the power number is affected by specific things. And I'm going to show you what those things are, but power is not directly correlated to damage. We had 3 different melees that all had different powers, did exactly the same damage. We had 2 different melees, had the exact same power, but did different damage. So then what exactly is power? Well, basically power is just a cumulative score of all the stats or all the things, not necessarily all of them, but some of the things that are on the item. So more specifically, the amount of damage you do, the amount of crit chance you have, the amount of crit damage you do as well. Now, elemental effect buildup, the actual number doesn't necessarily mean anything, and that doesn't change the power. Obviously, when we look at concussive and bioelectric, you see that these two are different numbers, but it actually having an elemental effect that could change the power. It's impossible to test that because I can't find a piece that has power damage exactly the same. The only difference is that the elemental effect is different, but the power score, I should say, does get affected by your total damage number, your total crit chance number, your total crit damage number. And let me give you a couple examples of why I know this to be the case. Now let's look at the high abilities melee. You see that it's 852 power, has 644 damage. The crit chance is at 36%. The power is 852. Like I said, if you go over here to crafting, what I figured out is that when I crafted this weapon, right here, high abilities, when I crafted it, it actually started with a 29% crit chance. The total power on the high abilities melee is only 837. So when I crafted it, it jumped up 7 points on the crit chance, and the crit power also went up because the crit chance went up. Now, do conditional stats also affect the total power? Well, again, this is something that is practically impossible to test, just being that how they have set up the gear in this game. There's no way to make everything else the same except have 2 different conditional stats. The closest thing that I was able to find is that, like on this suit, for example, we have defense 2960, we have health 2903, both of which will affect your total power. Now, elemental armor, it has elemental resistance. Conditional stats are, what it is, elemental something, something, something. Now, if we go all the way down here, momentum ability suit. Now, this has an 869 power, same grade, same defense, same health. The only difference between this one and the other one is that this one does not have any elemental effect, and this conditional stats are different. So that means that elemental effect, the percentage might not mean anything, but the actual it being elemental might mean something towards the power. It also could mean that each conditional stat has an effect on the power as well. So then you might ask, well, why did the team up bioelectric and concussive do different amounts of damage if they're the same power, same damage, same crit chance and all that stuff? Well, it's because elemental does damage. Now, you might not have known that, but the actual elemental effect itself, if any item has an elemental effect, it's going to do a specific amount of damage. Now, that is why I think that also changes the power level if it has an elemental effect, because elemental effects affect damage. Now, we just faced the mob. We did this entire test on the mob. The mob is resistant to concussive, and weakness is bioelectric. Vastly different. And even though that we didn't get any of the buildup effects to trigger, every single attack when we used concussive and bioelectric did different damage because each of those elemental effects actually does damage on top of the damage. And then the last test that we're going to do, which I really think you will see how power does not affect anything, is we took the very first melee weapon we used. We took the Predator one. We threw a couple mod slots on it, which affected just the elemental effect. And that raised its power to 2462. 2462, that's, you know, a lot, obviously. That is much higher than the other ones that, you know, we've done so far. 663. 875. 875. 1312. 994. 1312. 994 again, 663 on basic attacks, 994, 875, 875, 875 again, 875 again, 1312. So to sum up, does power actually matter? Well, kind of, in the sense it gives you an overall general feeling about how good the weapon kind of is, but it does not affect the damage. I think we have shown today that using as many different pieces, especially after we put the mods on there, who had thousands of power higher on the actual melee weapon, it still did the same amount of damage. So power does not affect directly the amount of damage you do. It just gives you a general idea of the overall quality of what the possible item is. And like I said, crit chance, crit damage, health, defense, possibly elemental stats, and possibly conditional stats could affect power. But power is not affected by damage, or damage is not affected by power directly. Anyways, hopefully you got a better understanding on what power actually is and how it applies in the game. If this video helped you at all, please hit that thumbs up, sub if you're new, and hopefully I see everybody again soon. Y'all take it easy. We are out. Peace.